Hello everyone, my name is Tim again, and today we're going to tackle a Pioneer CTF 650 belt change. And got this kit online from WJO Radio, which is www.wjo.com, which you'll see on here. What I'll do is at the very end, I'm going to take some still pictures of that instruction. It's a 6-pager, basically detailing all of the steps you have to take to change out the belts in this Pioneer CTF 650. An old Silver Series 2-head deck that everything actually works really well. The only thing that's not working is when you push play and it gets to the end of the tape. It's not stopping. So it could be sticky grease, could be tied to the belt. Often there's a belt that goes to the counter, and if the counter still rotates, it will indicate that the machine is still playing and it won't trip this out. Not likely that's the case, but anyway, we'll investigate further, and hopefully when we take it apart, clean out all the sticky grease as well as change out the belts. We'll rectify that, and then we'll have a fully functioning tape deck. And as I mentioned, it is fully functioning. It sounds really good. The only issue is that, so I'm hoping to breathe some new life in it by changing out all the belts. It's probably due, and also clean up the mechanisms to make sure that nothing is sticking and gummed up by old grease that's dried out or anything like that. That's often the case with these old mechanical beasts. So, one thing I also learned is never lend out your phone holder for your tripod. So that's why I'm having to hand bomb this one. I loaned it out about a week ago. Haven't got it back, so now I'm stuck with hand bombing the video on this. So you're gonna miss a lot of that stuff where I disassemble. I'll explain what I'm doing, then do it, and then film afterwards. But it won't be really possible for me to film the entire shtick because I don't have any way of holding up my phone reliably to do this. So first we'll do is undo all the bolts on the side here, the screws on the side, the case, take the back case off, and that's like step number 1. And I'll be going through all of the steps in this manual. You can jump to the end of the video where I'll have still videos, high definition videos of each of these pages, so you can actually go to those pages and see what you need to do to change out the belts if you're able to get another supplier for these belts. I would recommend WJO because he gives you instructions on how to do it. So, and his belts tend to be spot on. Oftentimes you'll change out belts and they won't be to spec, and then you'll have all kinds of wow and flutter issues, etc. I've found that WJO, his prices are really reliable, and also the belts are very close to spec. So more to follow. All right, we got the top off, and I've rotated the front of the cassette deck away from me just so I can see the guts of the transport system. And you can see there's a heck of a lot of belts here. So you got 2 to the, right here, 2 to the counter. And you can see that this one is really, really, really loose and stretchy. This one is likewise. So it's not surprising you're not getting the feedback to shut down the transport on this, the play button, but that may not be the case. These ones look still fairly tight. This one is, yeah, it's still snug, but you can see there's some tires in here, all kinds of belts in this guy here. So you can see that one is pretty loose and sluggish too. So it looks like we got a little bit of work ahead of us. So we'll follow the instruction guide here. So the first steps here, remove the cover, which we've done. Remove 2 screws on the top side, shown in figure A. And that's going to be these two screws right here. 1, 2, and then we've got this little like a soup bowl kind of thing, that a Tupperware bowl that I put all the screws in, so that way we don't lose anything. And this tells you all of the devices that you're looking at. So we've got a record actuator, flywheel, and a number of other items here that we're going to take apart. So this is part of the remote record actuator here. And here's your motor, which is working fine, and all the parts. So we're going to take all of this apart. It says remove belt 1, shown in figure A. Figure A is here. So belt 1 is this one here. So that's the one that's going to the counter over here. So you got to kind of look at it that way in order to, so we're going to remove this belt, as you can see there. That's belt 1. And what I'm going to do is I've got these price tags, and what I'm going to do is label each one, and I'll label that as old belt 1, so that way I don't mix any of them up. And as they come off, I'll give them the belt numbers, and that way I know which is which, and I can keep these for sizing later on, because I do have a number of belt kits that sometimes if I don't have the correct belt and I don't want to wait 3 months to get one, I've got these belt kits that I can often fit ones that I need if I'm in a pinch. So I'm going to go read through this. What's the next one? Remove the record actuator and black plastic switch adapter. 2 screws, figure A. So we'll follow this to a T. We'll keep this on for a second, and then once I get to part 6, I'll stop and show you what I've done. There's one more screw on the bottom of the cassette mechanism, so we're going to do the top 2, which I've done already, and we're removing this one. And then this should loosen up the whole transport assembly, and we'll get to that in a second. Another good thing to do is I always, when I'm working on decks like this, because you got so much stuff lying around, soldering guns and power bars and test speaker and all that kind of stuff, is I always bind up the power cable, just so you don't, when you're moving it around, it's not slapping around and hanging on things and knocking stuff off the table and everything. So it's a good idea to shorten this up so that you can manipulate around the deck a little bit better. All right, I misidentified the record actuator because I had this wrong way around. So here's your record actuator mechanism here, this black plastic thing with a spring and then 2 screws. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove those 2 screws, and that will release the record actuator so that we can pull out the assembly. So that is step number 4, and then you remove the 2 parts. So we'll get to that, and I'll show you once I've removed that and how this is going to lay once I've removed that. You get into a lot of complex tear parts when there's a lot of little teeny tiny screws all over the place. You never know what you're gonna what's what when you throw them into your little soup bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in little baggies, and here I've marked that that's the 2 screws for the record actuator. So we'll set that aside. I'll do the likewise for the transport hooking into the case. The big case ones I don't need to, because those are usually the big black ones. I can always tell that, and that's the first ones that go in the soup bowl. So we'll mark those ones too. The next step is to, so I've got that released, and as you can see with the mechanism, it's actually just going to lift out, so you can just leave it in place on this pivot point down here. And once the mechanism is released, so in order to release the transport mechanism, we actually have to remove the faceplate. So usually what you have to do is hit the stop eject and pull the faceplate out, but it's not saying that. I think what we're going to do is pull the faceplate off and then pull that assembly apart, because it's probably screwed in as you can see it. I think it was right there. So sometimes these face pieces just pop out, but I don't think this one does. But we'll soon see when we get to that step. So we've got 6 screws to remove, 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. To remove the faceplate, we'll have to pull the knobs off, and the buttons, or these flip switches, these will just float out when the faceplate comes off. Okay, I just removed the 3 screws on the bottom, and only 2 had washers, the left and the far right. The middle one did not have a washer. And I made separate bags for the 6 screws because the 3 bottom ones are different than the ones that are on top. And on the top, the middle washer, or the middle screw, only had a washer. So, which is consistent with the markings that are on the thing. So I'm not sure if somebody had this apart at one point. I doubt it. But those are the ones that had the washers anyway. So we're going to remove these buttons here, or these, so that we can slide this off. This should pop out. That pops out. That's the only, it's a split potentiometer on this one. And this one's a single, so it's easy to figure out which one goes where. And now we can remove the faceplate as such. Oh, there's one more for the power switch here that I missed. There we go. Now we can remove the faceplate. There's no wires connected to LEDs. Some faceplates you remove them and they've got attachments for LEDs, but this one does not. We're going to put this in a place where it's not going to get marked over here. And now we've got access to the front of the cassette deck and the controls. So there you go. So next, we're going to remove the cassette door. You press the ejection as you're, so it says press the eject button as if you're going to remove the tape. Once the door opens, grab both sides near the bottom and pull straight out. The door should snap off from the frame, then push the door frame back in until it locks in place. So this one is a quick release one. I just didn't want to force it because you don't want to break plastic pieces here. I used two hands. It didn't really need it. It sits on here like this, and all I had to do is just pop it this way, and it released really easy. So it wasn't that difficult. So we're going to place that over here so it's not in the way. And then you snap this back on as per the instructions. So I've already done steps 7 and 8 here. It's just intuitive. Remove the 6 knobs shown in figure B, which is right here. And knob 4 and 5 are 2-part knob set. Of course, I mentioned that. All the knobs should be pulled straight out. Do not pry. The faceplate is now ready to come off. Gently pull it forward straight out. This is the best time to clean and wax it. I would use Mother's car wax. Good idea, because then you won't get fingerprints and everything, hopefully. Remove 2 screws as shown in figure C, which are, let's see here. That screw right here above the power switch. And the other one is over here just below this LED display. You can see that screw right there. So we're going to remove those. And that will be the page 2 screws. This is how I'm going to identify them. Screw number 9 actually is what they're called here. Use care not to cut the wires on the rear side. Okay, we're just doing that. Let's do that first. Another good thing to be careful of is I pulled this screw out. There's a washer around it. And so I was pulling it out and I have it close to the face here. And what happened is it dropped down on the ground. It's always a good idea to keep the floor space below where you're working relatively clean because if it's a mess and you got lots of dust and stuff lying on the ground, you're going to lose little tiny screws. So I almost did there, but I've used my flashlight over there and found it immediately. So just be careful when you're pulling these things off that they don't fall. And then as you know, when these things bounce, they can go quite a distance from where they drop. So I just learned that lesson just now. All right, when I pulled that last screw out, which is the bottom one here, no washer on it, now you can see that the transport mechanism is quite loose. So that's probably the last of the screws to release the transport mechanism. So the next step is number 10 here. On the side near the power switch, there are 2 wire ties that need to be cut. Use care not to cut the wires, see figure D. The kit comes with new ones when you are ready to reassemble. That's new wire ties. And there's quite a few of them in there that bundle the wires together, you'll see. So that's figure D, which is over here. And you'll see it when I put it down here. Now we're looking at the front left side, and I'm referring to the left side as being when you're looking face on to the deck. This is your left side, that's your right side, because you could look at it opposite if you're looking from the rear of the deck. So that's what they're talking about in figure D, which are these 2 little zip straps that have that basically bundle these wires and keep them out of the way of everything inside the tape deck. So we're going to snip those with some side cutters here. These are really handy for working on electronics and 3D printers and laser printers. So you just snip them without worrying about, you don't want to cut any of the wires because they're very fine filament wires in here. And you'll muck things up sure as guns if you do. So there we go. Those are garbage. We've got new ones in the package. And this is the kit of the package, and there's the zip straps. I've got smaller ones that I'll use for, I won't use theirs because they're too big. So, next step to follow. All right, we're now on page 3 of 6, and figure E shows the tape deck on its side with the main board up on top and the transport mechanism on the right. And that's basically step 11 is telling you just to set it up that way. With the tape mechanism on the bottom right, which you see there. So there's a flexible wire tie, holding wire you may need to release, and that would be this one right here. So we're going to release that, we're going to snip that. And so there's a nylon wire tie there, and a flexible wire, which is down in here somewhere. Let's see, maybe I'm not seeing it. Anyway, we'll read that carefully and I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. And according to this, there was a flexible, they said it may have this flexible wire tie. I do not have it. I just had the one there, and there's no other flexible wire tie that's anywhere near this flywheel that I can see. Oh, there's this one. That's the one they're talking about, which is this. So they want you to unbend that, so that's going to allow cassette mechanism now to completely come out of the unit. So I'm going to do this two-handed because I don't want to do it one-handed and break anything here. But you can see how loose it is, and it's just a matter of jostling it around these this mechanism here and pull it out so that you can get it out, up, and basically facing up, as you see in the diagram here. Is that up or down? Might be on the down side. Okay, we'll pull it out and we'll explain what I did in a sec. Okay, I did it, and it was really easy to come out. It wasn't really stupendously hard. And the way they want you to orient it once you pull it out is now you can see that the cassette mechanism is on its side. This would be the side that's on the that would be connected to the counter and the cassette counter, and that's facing up. So the next thing that's going to come out are these 2 screws right here, and that's going to lift this little shroud that covers, I believe, it's partially covers. We might have to remove other stuff at the back side to allow access to the flywheel, so you can change the main belt that's on the main flywheel. But that's so it says use figure G as a reference or below and remove 2 screws shown attaching the flywheel bracket to the cassette assembly. There are 2 more screws shown in figure G on the next page you need to remove. So I suspect It's the two screws that are down there to remove this bracket out. We'll start by removing these two, and then we'll go to the next page. So this will be the end of page 3 of 6. So this will be the flywheel bracket, I'll label it as, and put these screws in it. Those are now removed, and just to note that those both come with washers on them. So they're very, very small, fine washers. So I've left this, I normally put the number of screws on here. I'll wait till I see the other two screws to see if they're the same. If they're the same, then I'll just say times 4. If it's separate, different types of screws, then I'll have to label this as the side and the other one as the back. So we'll wait until we see what the next ones look like. Okay, the next step, 15, remove the flywheel figures G below, which is here, as transparent. Lift bracket up gently and move the side to the side. So there's 2 screws here that we have to remove, not this third one. It's number 15. And those correlate to on the mechanism here. You can see the this comes off at a 90 degrees here, and there's a screw there, and there's one above that one that does not come out. That just holds on that little bendable piece that holds together that wire bundle, basically. So we've got the 2 screws to remove. Screw 1, screw 2. And then they do look the same as this, so it'll be times 4 for that mechanism. Now that, as soon as you take that second screw off, basically that whole assembly, the flywheel protection bracket, basically just flops off. Just to note that all of the screws I've done so far have been a number 2 Phillips, and this is the only one where I had to switch to a number 1 Phillips because they're so small. It requires a much finer number 1 Phillips screwdriver in order to properly remove them without stripping them. So there's also another little, you got to be very careful. There's another mechanism here that goes on here. You got to make sure when you put it on that it's in place. There's a little nub there that goes into this pinion there or whatever. Not sure what you would call it. Anyway, that's just make sure you note how things come apart when you go back to put them together again. That little bracket's got to sit on top of that brass post there. So we'll do that. I'm sure it'll tell you what to do here next. So it says remove the motor mounting plate. Remove the screws shown in figure G. Then lift the motor and plate as one piece. That's the motor mounting plate. So we're going to have to do the motor mounting plate as well. Belt number 2 and 3 are attached to the pulley. So you can see this diagram here. You're going to have to look at it very, very closely. So what we're going to do next is remove this motor plate, the 3 screws, which translate up in here. So we're going to have to bend this around without torquing the wires. So you got to be very careful how you arrange things here, because you don't want to be pulling any of these wires out of these delicate solder joints that are on the main board, as well as on the coming to the motor or the transport assembly as well. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. I can't film this one, unfortunately, while I got to reorient things here. So I got 2 of the 3 screws off. You can see one of the screws goes there. The other one goes there. And now when I take the other one off, this is probably going to flop out. So just make sure you note the orientation of this. When it goes back in, you don't want to have it flipped around 90 degrees or try to bung things up, because it'll probably just flop off there. Okay, as you can see by the diagram, here's your motor plate, and that's the motor sticking out. And on the bottom of that motor is this spindle, and you've got belt 2, which is the fatter belt here. Goes around the main pulley, or the main flywheel. And belt 3 goes around this other assembly, rotor over here. And they look like they're in fairly good nick, but you can see that they're kind of misshapen. You can see that they've been sitting for a long time in that position. So I don't think this this tape deck has been used much. Same with that. But I mean, strength-wise, these belts are just sturdy as can be. So maybe by putting a rounder belt that isn't misshapen. But I suspect when these things are spinning, it doesn't really matter. But probably didn't need to change them. But since we are already in there, we've got new belts, might as well put the new ones in, and they won't be misshapen like this and maybe not affect wow and flutter quite as much as these potentially would, although I don't think that would be a big issue. And then belt number 4 is the one that goes around this flywheel here, the inside flywheel, and around this. So we're going to open up the bags now and then put the proper flywheels in the proper place to get that done. So it says replace 2 and 3, see figure I for proper belt placement on the pulley. There are a couple ways to do this. A would be to reinstall the motor and mounting plate first, then install the belts, or replace the 2 belts while holding the motor in place and keeping the pressure on one belt at a time and then wrapping the belts. I think I'm going to do B, and I think that'll be easier from the angle that I have to play with here. So I'll do that. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the belt package for 2 and 3 and 4, and we'll put this one on first. Well, let's do belt 4 first, which is this one right here that goes around the bottom side of the flywheel. And then we'll do belt 3 and 2 at the same time. So coming up. Really good to have a dental pick to do this kind of thing, because that way you can just get in there and use that to pull the belt assembly out like I just did there, and then it allows you to get inside, because now it's a way your fingers can't get at it, and now I can pull it around this flywheel assembly. So I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. It's easy to put these things on, but you'll figure it out. It's very simple. Well, I managed to get it all together on method B, and you can see that everything is in place. And I've spun the flywheel, and you can see all the other wheels are rolling as well. So it looks like it's working good. This other one looks a little loose. No, it's snug enough. Okay, it just seemed a little loose because it's such a thick belt. But anyway, looks like it's gonna work. And yeah, that one can actually come out and be easily replaced if it turns into a problem. I don't think it will be. They look like they're all snug. As I said, they all move fluidly together, so that's good. Right, now we're on the last sheet, which is pages 5 and 6, because they're printed on each side, or both sides. And so the next step is step 19, which is reinstall the flywheel bracket, which is this guy right here, this guy right here. And you just have to basically take those 4 screws that I took off and put it on, and then it says to spin it so that you don't spin this, just to make sure you don't pinch anything, and that everything is properly in place. Like this guy right here, that's specifically the one I'm most worried about. So we'll have to make sure. Looks like things have moved a bit in there. This might be a killer. Anyway, we'll get it working. It took a little bit of finagling, but it actually went in quite well. So we've got the 2 screws here. Flywheel is still rotating. Everything is spinning in there properly. That's good. And this one here, you just got to be careful. You would think that actually screws into that plate. It does not. There's a hole in there that it just kind of acts as a liner there, and it sort of free floats. And then when this one screws down, it basically butts up against that plate. So that this plate on the bottom here is not actually bolted to this top plate. There's just a recessed hole that just keeps it lined up. So that's where I kind of thought I went awry, but now that everything fits into place, it now looks nice and snug. So I think that's the proper configuration. So it was probably the most difficult part of this whole thing so far. Still a few more things to do here, I think. So turn the cassette mechanism so the front door faces you, push the eject, shown in figure H, and the door frame should open. So what we'll do is we'll put this in without doing too much tension on it, hopefully. Not sure which is the eject. Eject is the second from the right, this one here. So bang, pop that open. So then we have to remove the beauty plate now inside, and to get at the belt that's for that one there. So that's the last belt that we have to do, and then we have the other belt that will be a simple one for us. So, okay, so the next thing is you had to push this eject button here. This pops out, and we're going to have to take this beauty plate out. I think there's one screw there. I can't see any other screws, and that probably will allow you to take the beauty plate out to allow access to this other belt that drives the tape counter. And then there's a second belt that goes from this tape counter to there, so it's just kind of a linked set of belts. So let's get that one done. If there's any tricks, I'll let you know. Okay, yeah, there's two screws. So there's one screw right there in dead center, and that screw right there on the beauty plate that allows you to pull the plate out. Okay, you can't remove the entire plate because there's two very delicate wires in the back there. But when you move this forward, you can actually access the spindle and the belt to change out here. So we'll do that without removing this and damaging the plate or pulling those two. I think they're the lights for the backlighting for your to see how much tape you have left on in the window of your cassette. So we don't want to muck with that, but we'll use our dental pick to remove the. You can see deep in there. You can see the pulley that we're going to pull the belt off of and put the new belt on with. All right, when you get to step 23, basically they talk about the tires that they're made to last a lifetime, so there's no tires for the kit, and it's at the heart of the mechanism, so you'd have to totally strip the whole thing completely down. And it's also saying that for belt 6, so it's saying belt 6 is included, but again requires more knowledge than I can transfer here. So my gut feel is in order to change belt 6, which is this one here, and it goes right into the meat and the guts of this thing, you would literally have to disassemble this whole assembly in order to do it. And that may be the guy that's reliant on doing that when you stop the button. You know, when it comes to the end of the play of the tape, it would actually eject the play button. So we may be stymied on that one, but we'll try it. We'll see what happens. As far as the all of the mechanisms here, they seem to be working quite well. I don't see any problems with sticky grease. We'll just have a look. We'll clean some patches up. I'll do that off camera. But you can see that all of these wheels are still quite slimy and greasy, so I think those are okay. No sense in stripping things down if I don't have to. And we'll see how we can. We'll put her together again and see how she operates. So we're just going to do the reverse of what I did before. So we're going to put this mechanism back in and then button everything up together. So first we'll muscle this, put the beauty plate back on, and once I do that, then we'll put it back into place, and hopefully things will work out. All right, it took a little bit of finagling, but I got it in. You got to make sure that this eject mechanism here over here is lined up properly with the mechanism there. And we'll have that lined up for the two screws that go in there, and that will be your mechanism to release it. And there we have it. Screws line up here. We'll put the top screws in, then we'll put the two bottom screw, or the single bottom screw in to hold it in place. Next we put on the two faceplate screws, and that lines everything up there, and then that's going to allow me to put the top screws and the bottom screws back on. Hold the cassette mechanism in it. So that was an easy easy do. Next we bundled these wires, the same wires that were there, and basically zap strap them to the side of the case so they don't flop out and get pinched there. And then the other one is we're going to bundle these all together here, and we're going to zap strap those together like it was in the original. And then this part here, all of these get folded under with that little bendable, it's like a zap strap, but it's actually built right onto this circuit board there. So that bundles those together, and then I'll just bundle those like it was from the factory. There we have the zap strap there, bundle there, the two zap straps there, and then now I'm ready to put the faceplate back on. Putting the faceplate back on is just the reverse order. Put the plate on. We'll actually put the faceplate for this on first, I think, and then put the faceplate on, and then all the buttons and everything. Faceplate just snaps back on. Make sure you read the writing to figure out which is top and bottom. You don't want to be breaking any connectors or anything like that. And now it works just fine. All right, there we go. We've got the bottom screw here done. All the 3 bottom screws for the faceplate. All the knobs are back on. Switches and everything are in play. This thing's sliding out of, not sliding too easily. Getting in the way of my soldering gun there. Anyway, put the 2 screws in on this assembly right here. Make sure that's done. And then the last thing we've got is this belt right here, which is belt number 1, and it's going to go around the tape counter and extending from that belt that was put on this double set of rollers here. So that's going to be the last piece here. Okay, sorry for the wobbly video, but like I say, I don't have my tripod. My son borrowed it, got a friend to borrow it of his, and hasn't returned it yet. So there we go. All of the belts have been done except for belt number, I think it's belt number 6, which they actually said there's no procedure for doing that because you have to tear the whole thing apart. And it's not worth the risk, because you take something like this, as complex as this, apart without proper instructions, and the user manuals, the service manuals are garbage for showing you that procedure. So we're going to hope that that belt is still functional, and it looks like it's good. All the belts I pulled out of here were actually in quite good shape, so we'll see what happens. See if we get a functional tape deck out of this. So I'm gonna, before I put the top on, we'll do a run through of it and see if everything's functioning. I'd hate to have to take the top off and rip into the guts again if I mucked up something. So let's give her a whirl. Last sanity check is to make sure that all of the bags I used are empty, which they are, and we'll use those for another day. And there we go. Let's give it a whirl. All right, I've got it plugged in from the line out into a mini jack on this little speaker bar there. Stereo speaker bar, so left and right channel. And we've got line input, and we can actually control volume here or with the volume on the player there. So we've got power to the deck, selector, and music search. Oh, I see. Okay. Power switch working good. We've got some yellow here. What's the name of the band? Essential Yellow. My dog is freaking out upstairs. Gotta have a backtrack, I guess. Well, that's not good. Well, that was unexpected, but anyway, it's a day or so later. I had other projects on the go, but revisiting this cassette deck, CTF 650 Pioneer Silver Series cassette deck, I changed all the belts, put everything together, I thought quite well, and it looks like that it's not powering up the motor. And I went online, Audio Karma I think had an article on it, and I'll put a link hopefully in the video if I remember. And there is a switch, it's called S15, which is when you engage these, you know, the play switch or whatever, it allows power to go to the motor. And so everything's powered up on the deck, so when I turn it on, you can see that it does have power, but when I push play with a cassette deck in it, nothing. So basically what's happened is that S15 switch, if it's not put in correctly when you reinstall all the gizzets inside, that could be an issue, or it could be just bad contacts, dirty contacts in the switch. So we're going to take it apart again and pull the module apart. Pull the transport module apart and see if we can find that S15 switch and see if it's installed correctly. Maybe when I reassembled things that it wasn't being engaged or something like that. So that's what we're going to explore today. Now what I've got the power now to the transport, and now the motor is spinning. So I've hit it with some deoxit and I shuffled that connector across. But now I'm getting this clicking sound from the auto stop mechanism here when it's just in idle mode, and when it's idling, everything is spinning in here. So don't leave these things on because they just sit there and spin and spin and spin. You have to turn the power off for the motor to come off. Anyway, that's what's happening. We'll see. And then when I push play, it rotates for a bit. I get some signal there, and then it just stops. So clearly I put something together incorrectly. So I'm going to pull the mechanism back out again and pull everything apart and see if I've screwed up when I was reassembling the mechanism to put the tires, or to put the wheels, or the flywheel belts and everything on. So we'll see if we can fix that. Okay, I got it to, I figured it out. That S15 switch, there's a little plate in there when you assemble the back guard for the flywheel, and it can go in one of two positions, underneath the plate or over top the plate. It goes over top the plate. It goes underneath, then the switch is activated and no power gets to the motor. And I'll put a link in the YouTube video of the discussion, and I think they got it wrong in the discussion, but I tried it with it below and it kills the power and no power gets to the tape transport. If you put it above that little bar, and there's a little photo in there I'll show, basically, yeah, it functions, but I got it functioning outside, but now that I've partially assembled it, let's just see if it functions in the transport. So turn the power on the power supply here, turn this, and now it's fast forwarding. And it's playing, but I'm not getting any display. Before I was getting display. So I had to have pulled out a wire here somewhere. It seems to be functioning good. See, when I turn the transport on, the display goes out. But it's functioning, but I still get that clicking sound, which I wasn't getting before. So obviously I've put in something. When I reassembled it, something went gummy. So if I go fast forward, just curious to see if the auto stop will work. Interesting that the display goes out when yeah, there it worked. But I'm still getting that clicking sound. Back to the drawing board. Okay. Well, I've done all I can do with the CTF650 for now. I've got a broken wire that explains the VU meters being out. So I just got to trace where that is. So I got to go back and watch the video to find out where that blue wire from G8 on the main board goes to. I haven't been able to quite see where it was broken off, so it's going to be tough to find where it goes. But I should be able to see it in the video. That's why I do these videos, is to be able to recreate some of my steps sometimes. So it's still clicking. I got a feeling it's that belt that I can't get to, and which is going to be, I mean, if I take that assembly apart, there's probably about a 20% chance I can actually get the deck working again. But we'll see. We're not giving up on everything. So right now, this is the end of part 1. Looks like there might have to be a part 2 if I can dig into this further and figure out what's going on.